My friends, have you ever wondered what is in this room behind Princess Zelda in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time? Well, with L to levitate on our EverDrive, we can very easily find out, and it is quite something remarkable, because this room is actually pretty well loaded and we can run around here. And today we will be exploring forbidden places you can't usually go on the Nintendo 64 in other games like Diddy Kong Racing, Pokémon Snap, and even Twine, The World Is Not Enough. So let's check out these strange places and forbidden spaces on the N64. And so first up, we will explore this strange area behind Zelda, in Zelda's Courtyard. It is really, really weird, and it gets weirder if we look at these other areas in a second on the left and right, and we will get there. We can see that these castle guards are, like, not fully loaded at all, you know. They do not behave the same way that, you know, a typical NPC behaves outside the castle. For example, if we were to run up to one, or, you know, a character in the castle market, we can just pass right through. So they're only like a model loaded to see them through the window. This blue carpet is quite nice and royal, and the walls aren't solid. Like I'll just walk right through and fall off and void out. So I'm pressing L to levitate to get back up now. And it's just a very strange area. Like, there's a good example. We can just walk right through this space of wall here, because I guess the floor below us is loaded, but the actual walls aren't solid. We get a quite nice view of the entire moat around Zelda's little, like, pedestal. I mean, what would you really call that space she stands on? She really just sits there waiting for you to come visit, which is kind of cute. There's also these, like, windows. Like, who looks at that window way up top? Now, the one lower right we'll go check out right now, because obviously it is interesting to compare and contrast that space with this one. So let's check this out, and if we just walk right here, we kind of just jump back into the Zelda area. Now, many will know of this special window where if we shoot a slingshot, this castle guard will appear and chuck a bomb at us. So that is simply amazing. That's one of the funnier things in the game. But if I use L to levitate and go over here into this window, I'll actually have to go all the way up and down. The floor here is not solid at all. I fall right through the floor here. And so this is quite in stark contrast to the floor behind Zelda, you know. Why is that? And I'll share my theory in a moment. This side, of course, is where we get the very interesting paintings of the Mario characters, you know? Yoshi, Peach, Mario, Bowser, and Luigi. Very cool 5, good choices. You know, no Wario, no DK, no Waluigi. I guess Waluigi hadn't been invented yet. But likewise, the floor is not solid at all. You fall right through. And so I can't sit here and explore and so on. And my best guess as to why the floor behind Zelda is solid, but not the floor in these two windows, is because they may have, like, needed it to be solid to animate that moment where Ganondorf appears behind Zelda. Like, you glance through with her and look at this truly evil man who's going to destroy the land of Hyrule. And for him to, like, walk out here and kneel, they may have needed the floor to be solid to do that. You know, that's my best guess as to what's happening here. But even so, it's a little bit interesting as to why then they didn't quite need that for the strange castle guard who throws a bomb at you. You know, that's obviously a bit different, and it makes you wonder. But, you know, I guess maybe he only is animated as, like, a 3D sprite, and so they didn't need him to fully be animated, and they didn't need a fully solid floor for him. I mean, that's my best guess. But yeah, it's just fun with L to levitate, to play around in these areas in Ocarina of Time that you couldn't access before. And hey, if you enjoyed this and you enjoy the rest of the video, maybe I will do it again, because believe me, there are so many places that one can possibly explore in this game, and it really is quite remarkable. Next up, we're going to explore some forbidden stages in Diddy Kong Racing. Well, maybe not quite forbidden, but certainly cut content, cut courses, which most people have probably never seen before, or at least aside from some old magazine or website 20 years ago. These are made possible with restored maps from noclip.website and information from the Cutting Room Floor, both great resources that do a great share in helping to explore many nostalgic video games. So, let's take a look. My friends, what exactly is the Horseshoe Gulch? Well, it is indeed some sort of unused track in Diddy Kong Racing. We can see here it is in the shape of a horseshoe, and we can see that for some reason Whizpig is just kind of hanging out, floating in circles around here on one end of the horseshoe. Now, according to the Cutting Room Floor, it's just an unfinished track, and it's certainly strange that it is simply a horseshoe and not like a circular track, kind of more similar to like a boss race in some regard, you know, like the Triceratops one is not a circle either. But what's interesting is that other screenshots of this Horseshoe Gulch on the Cutting Room Floor show the track being a closed circuit. And so that's kind of weird, you know, obviously the sort of right-hand side map doesn't match up with what you're physically seeing on the Horseshoe Gulch. But it's kind of a cute little track. And I guess this is supposed to be an arch going over this piece of track here. Like it's supposed to, you know, go right over, and over side here will be like a rocky outcropping of the arch. And that bit is unfinished. And we can see the wall sort of rejoins over here. So there's that kind of section that's broken out. And the skybox is kind of cool. Like it's kind of like this sort of, you know, Arizona high desert skybox with these sort of step structures out there, but then you have this like green field which kind of doesn't match it, but it's kind of cool. Certainly more like the dino vibe area of the game. And there are some like really old videos from like almost 20 years ago on YouTube, you know, 14-17 years ago, showing people playing this course, which is interesting. But yes, certainly a strange relic of the game's memory as Whizpig comes flying towards us. And it's believed the Cutting Room Floor suggests that this was used for testing the AI, maybe of Whizpig, maybe of other racers as well. There's this really interesting ocean track that's unused. It certainly looks like sort of a replacement for the battle area, Dark Water Beach. And we can just hold it here for a moment and take in these sort of really nice and immaculate vibes. And like at a glance, that one really looks similar to Dark Water Beach, but then once you kind of zoom out, you can see it's really not that similar to Dark Water Beach. And there's a lot more small kind of islets and a lot more features here on Dark Water Beach to go and, you know, hover around and battle your opponents. But yeah, I really like the ocean track, and you know, this anchor is kind of a cool feature. We don't really see that on Dark Moon Beach. And you can see they were certainly getting at what ended up being the result. So you kind of wonder why this track got discarded, because it looks pretty good. It looks like it could be completed at some point. But I guess for one reason or another, they just decided, you know what, we're going to build a different one from scratch and go with that. Now this is an unused volcano track. The Cutting Room Floor suggests it could be like an early version of Hot Top Volcano. We can see sort of these small paths in between volcano, you know, lava that you would have to traverse, and maybe they felt that was going to be too hard for your average casual player, and so that's why they built a new track from scratch. It also kind of looks like, in my opinion though, and I certainly respect Cutting Room Floor's opinion, but it almost looks to me like it could be the sort of like the battle area as well, where you catch eggs and put them in your little volcano. You know, there's 3 volcanoes here with a 4th structure somewhere. You could certainly make it that battle area. But yeah, this one's kind of interesting as well. We see these lava flows coming down from each of these volcanic what do you call them? Chimneys? Something like that. If there's any volcanologists watching, they can let me know the official terminology. Yeah, it's quite cool, quite interesting. You know, if we look at Hot Top Volcano, if I get a good picture here, it's a much larger stage, and now there's really not room to drive a car around. You can only go on airplane and hovercraft, whereas in the unused track, you know, there was certainly enough room to drive around, even though it would have been a challenge. What a great dinosaur there. What a cool friend to have in the game. They should put this dino in Smash Brothers. You know, what do you think? Hot Top Volcano Dino for Smash. It would be pretty epic. And yeah, here's Fire Mountain. We can see we have the 4 kind of structures to put your eggs in, and they spawn in the middle. And, you know, it makes me wonder if the unused volcano track was meant to be a battle track as opposed to a racing track. Maybe it kind of didn't know what it wanted to be, and that's why they ended up scrapping it, because it was sort of in between. I guess the sort of narrow, rocky pathways between the molten lava does suggest it was more of a racing track, but it's still quite an unusual, unused track. Let's just fly around it once to get a vibe of what it might have been like. I mean, that would have been a tough turn, getting off there, and you know, you might get lost over on the left-hand side, but certainly an interesting potential track. And finally, there's this unused temple track, and the cutting room floor believes that this was a early version of Jungle Falls, which makes sense. Now, it looks like this one would have had to have been either airplane or hovercraft. I mean, there's just too much water to traverse with the car, whereas Jungle Falls is definitely a car stage. I mean, you do fall in the water quite often, but yeah, this one, there's no way. Man, look at that. That would have been tough on hovercraft to make that turn. Very narrow turn up in there, like a chicane. And nice waterfall. I always love seeing waterfalls in N64 render. We can see the temple's only partly made. There's steps going up that way and a ramp, so you would have played it going this way, this direction, down the stairs, coming around. That would make this area easier to do because you could fall off the waterfall with your hovercraft. Coming around here, down the canyon, up the hill, up into this very small cavern, quite a choke point there. And up here, under this bridge, you wonder if there would have been a balloon or something for plane mode up here. And you get some road structure up there, and that's what's so cool about so many of these Diddy Kong Racing stages, is kind of the alternate paths you get with the different vehicles. Yeah, certainly an unfinished level. And if we look at it in comparison to Jungle Falls, we can just see, like, Jungle Falls is quite a good deal larger than this overall. Yeah, there's the bridge, and you know, I mean, the bridge in the temple area is really sort of the only kind of relic of that stage, and this 2-level balloon area certainly also kind of harkens to that area I pointed out on the course. But hey, very interesting stuff, and I guess, you know, that course was just kind of too small, too congested, and they decided, you know what, let's expand the course a bit, make it kind of more drivable, more raceable. And this one you can use all 3 vehicles on, so that's pretty cool as well. And certainly they did a good job, because this, I would say, really is one of the more iconic courses in Diddy Kong Racing. So here's something cool on Pokémon Snap's Valley stage. Have you ever wondered what's behind the gate at the end of the level? You know, if you don't open it, you'll just naturally take the course to the river and float to the despawn point, taking you out of the stage. If you pester ball a Squirtle to knock the Mankey off the mountaintop towards the red button, and pester ball Mankey towards the red button, it opens the gate. And if you've ever beaten the game, you'll know that behind the gate, you get Professor Oak's little research cabin, where he informs you that, you know, there's this new aspect to the game. You have to go find these Pokemon signs like this Doug Trio mountain we see here, and photograph those to unlock Rainbow Cloud, where you will go and snap Mew, thus completing the game. And that's all cool and dandy, but the problem is you only ever get to see that gate area, what's behind the gate in that cutscene, and you cannot actually go explore what's in there. However, thanks to the noclip.website, we now can. And so we'll cruise down and take this beautiful view of this valley stage. I mean, such classic N64 architecture and mood all around on the way down. And there are a couple of interesting things over in Professor Oak's Pond, which really have sort of made it one of my favorite spots on the entire N64 console. And of course, here's the Squirtles, which you knock to hit Mankey down towards the button, and then you Pesterball Mankey, bingo, bango, and open the gate. And so this is like normally as close as you get to seeing what's behind the gate, and you just see the cabin, which is really comfy, and that's it. The game stops you here. But of course, in this situation, we can actually access this pond, and we see it's quite expansive behind the gate. Like, there's actually a lot of space back here. And we'll kind of stare off here for now, and one thing that striked me the first time I went here is that the Pokemon still spawn in this area. Dratini and Magikarp, which is quite fascinating. And one thing that I kind of pondered is, imagine all these years ago as a youth playing this game, if we could get into this area and just chill and hang out and throw apples all day to go for high score pictures of Dratini or Magikarp. I mean, more importantly would be Goldeen, because Dratini and Magikarp have kind of particular setups where you need 2 of the Pokemon in the frame for, a world record score, whereas Goldeen only requires 1. Shiny Goldeen with 1,000 size. But from hanging out here and chucking these apples and Pesterballs, I've actually never seen a Goldeen in this area. And so, that is very, very, very strange to me, because, I just can't see it being a programming thing. It must be these zones or rooms of where the Pokemon can or can't spawn on the stage. But then that raises a question, why can any Pokemon spawn in this area? Why can Dratini or Magikarp spawn down here when you can't even access this area to begin with? And sure, maybe they could have, turned it off, this zone, and have no spawns here. And I guess my question is, why didn't they? But the fact that Pokemon can spawn here kind of adds even more magic and niche rarity to this area. What a strange area that no one would ever be in Pokemon Snap. I don't think there's any Gameshark code to actually get you off the rails and explore this zone. So this is such a rare scene that you're all seeing now, and I find it very beautiful. And then if we turn around and look at the cabin here, we see this wonderful little cabin. I mean, it's a very small cabin. Almost reminds me of Dampé's house in Ocarina of Time. It's so small. And this is presumably Oak's, cabin where he carries out Pokemon research, Maybe he comes out onto the dock and goes fishing for Magikarps and whatnot. One thing I find interesting, though, with this cabin is that your Pesterballs and apples go right through, so it's not solid at all, but it is fully rendered on all 4 sides. And I find that interesting because oftentimes in games, the developers, if you're not going to see something, they'll just cheat and not render it. We will see that a little bit later in the final section of this video in a different game. And so it could be like a black void back here on this side of the cabin, but they decide to just build the cabin fully. Even though it doesn't have collision, it's still there fully. And so even though you only see it from, this section way out here when you're traditionally playing the game, they still built the back side of it. And I just love this spot. I just find it so comfy and such a relaxing spot. I wish I could have spent hours of my youth hanging out here and chucking apples for Dratinis and Magikarps. But the fact that I can kind of see it now and appreciate this wonderful Professor Oak's special pond, even now today, puts a smile on my face, and it's one of my favorite places on the N64, and I'm happy to share it with you all now. So, The World Is Not Enough is of course the other James Bond game on Nintendo 64, and its first level, Courtyard, is very strange. There's a well-known game-breaking glitch to beat the level in 9 seconds, which has been known about pretty much since the game's release. Basically, if you complete the first objective and then leave the stage before new objectives load in, the game thinks you've completed the entire stage. The intended way to beat the stage is a lot more convoluted, where you have to go deeper into the bank building and complete numerous more objectives. But all that being said, many people playing the game back in the day realized that you could not access this upper balcony in the first room. Even when you do go upstairs in the level, you're in a completely different area to this balcony. But thanks to a moon jump code from old school N64 memory hacker Subdrag, we can change all that and visit the majestic balcony. So we can see up top here is this balcony that you just simply cannot access in the game without any sort of cheat or game break. I mean, there's not even any known way to do it without a Gameshark or EverDrive to hack the game's memory, but we were able to find a moon jump code, and let's check out the balcony. And the first thing we're going to do is go over to this corner, and we see like this void, and obviously you wouldn't see this from the ground floor from any place where you would normally be accessing the level, and so it makes sense that the developers would like never program in a solid wall here. And actually you kind of like are floating, like I don't think there's a platform or anything, but your Z position on the XYZ axis is probably like locked or something, and so you're not falling through the floor, which is interesting. We see some items like doors are loaded through this void zone, and then yeah, we're just gonna pop back out here onto the floor and keep looking around. I mean, it's just so odd to be up in this like forbidden spot that many people have childhood memories of like wondering what is up here and finally being able to see. And it gets weirder because there is this, oh, I fell off there, but there is this guard up here, I guess, and he talks to you and you can fully interact with him, which we'll check out. This room has nothing in it. Again, which is so weird, like, why did they make a full room? You know, they could have gotten away with just having the door and the outside wall, but they decided to make it a whole room, which is quite interesting. I mean, maybe they did that before they fully knew the level design, but anyways.
I'm afraid no one gets to see Mr. Lachaise without an appointment, sir.
So that guard talks to you, which is really funny. And then in here, something even weirder we're about to see in a moment. There is a destroyed computer monitor. Like, what is going on? Like, why was this placed here? And you wonder if like any of the developers put it here for fun, or because they knew people would like maybe hack their way up here and see, or like if it was a needed thing to do to like place this object here while they were building the stage. I mean, that is certainly a deep, deep mystery. I mean, you could really make it like one of the most obscure mysteries on the N64. You know, the broken computer monitor on the Courtyard upstairs balcony. And it's solid, like I'm strafing into it and I can't strafe through it. So unlike some other objects we've seen so far, it's fully rendered and loaded, which is so weird. And yeah, I'm just gonna stand over here and take a beautiful view of the balcony. You know, this is a view that no one would have had in their youth, but it is quite too nice to just look out here over this bank and ponder the meaning of life and all these strange three-dimensional spaces that we've had such a great time exploring on the N64 in our youth. So, there were some forbidden places you can't normally go on the Nintendo 64. If you have any places you would like me to explore next, please leave a comment, because I love making these kinds of videos and checking out these odd spaces in these games. Well, I hope you enjoyed, stay true my friends, and I will see you in the next stream or video.